Welcome to another edition of Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. This week, the update on Mali's political situation as the junta inaugurates an interim government headed by a civilian. Then a roundup of the week at the extraordinary UN General Assembly, filled with hard words and some accusations. Plus, our exclusive interview with the new British Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Bob Llewellyn Jones. That's the program in a wrap. Let's check in on other discussions in diplomatic circles. We'll be right back. Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev has accused Armenia of being the first to open fire in clashes over the volatile Nagorno-Karabakh region, which have reignited concern about instability in the South Caucasus. Armenia, on the other hand, says Azerbaijan carried out an air and artillery attack on Nagorno-Karabakh and even warned neighboring Turkey not to get involved in the conflict. Syria's foreign minister has accused the Trump administration of attempting to suffocate Syrians with sanctions, just like George Floyd and others were cruelly suffocated in the United States. New U.S. sanctions that took effect in June under the so-called Caesar Act have further crippled the war-torn country's already crumbling economy by prohibiting foreign companies trading with Damascus. The U.S. mission to the UN did not immediately respond to the comment. The WHO's Emergencies Program Director, Dr. Mike Ryan, says the global death toll from COVID-19 could double to 2 million before a successful vaccine is widely available without concerted action to curb the pandemic. The number of deaths in the 9 months since the coronavirus emerged in China is nearing 1 million.
Because if we look at losing 1 million people in 9 months, and then we just look at the realities of getting vaccine out there in the next 9 months, it's a big task for everyone involved to, Marianne just outlined the issues of listing, there's the issue of scale-up, there's the issue of funding these vaccines, there's the issue of distributing these vaccines, and then the issues of acceptance. And beyond that, with the work we still have to do in controlling this disease. And remember, we have things we can do now to drive transmission down and drive down the number of deaths.
Mali's military junta has finally appointed a civilian leader for the country's interim government, but with the junta leader as its deputy. Now the junta wants sanctions imposed by the ECOWAS to be lifted because presumably the junta has met requirements by the regional bloc. The ECOWAS special envoy, Nigeria's former president, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, had a response.
Following weeks of back and forth between Mali's military leaders and the ECOWAS delegation sent in to negotiate, the junta eventually announced a leader for the interim government in the person of former defense minister and retired colonel Ba Ndao. The vice president, however, would be the leader of the junta that seized power last month, Colonel Assimi Goïta. The junta had come under intense pressure from ECOWAS leaders to return power to civilians following the August the 18th coup that overthrew President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. The leaders and Mali's partners such as France and the United States fear the coup could set a dangerous precedent and undermine a fight against Islamist militants across the Sahel region. Ndao and Goïta were appointed by a group of 17 electors chosen by the junta to oversee an 18-month transition that will culminate in fresh elections. The interim leader, Ba Ndao, was born on August the 23rd, 1950 in Ségou and began serving in the armed forces in 1973. He did his basic training at the Joint Military School, École Militaire Interarmes of Koulikoro from 1976 to 1978. Opted to join the Air Force and completed his training abroad in the Soviet Union, where he learned to pilot helicopters, and in France, where he graduated from the Military Leadership College, École de Guerre. Named aide-de-camp to former President Moussa Traoré, a general who came to power after leading the first military coup in Mali's history, Ndao left his post unceremoniously in 1990. From 1992 to 2002, he served as Deputy Chief of Staff of the Air Force and a year later became Chief of Staff. In 2014, he took over as Defense Minister after his predecessor, Soumeilou Maïga, was pressured to resign when the Malian army suffered a stinging defeat in Kidal and was driven out by armed groups. His position was not renewed and he retired and remained in the shadows ever since. That is until September the 21st, 2020, when he was picked to lead Mali's interim government and was sworn in on Friday, September the 25th. The 70-year-old took his oath of office in front of several hundred military officers, political leaders and diplomats. Officials hope the inauguration will lead to the lifting of economic sanctions imposed by ECOWAS, which they say has paralyzed the economy. ECOWAS envoy to Mali, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, says the sanctions may be lifted following the inauguration. His comments are the first indication that ECOWAS will accept the interim leadership. But the president of the ECOWAS Commission, Jean-Claude Cassibrou, says while the commission acknowledges the appointment of Ba Ndao, sanctions would be lifted when a civilian prime minister is appointed.
Meanwhile, this past week, the UN General Assembly held in New York. Leaders gave their addresses all right, only they were all virtual through recorded messages. And that's because of the coronavirus pandemic. Many countries, including the United States, where the meetings are scheduled to hold, are yet to reopen their airspace.
The 75th UN General Assembly kicked off in New York, with Secretary General Antonio Guterres pushing for a global ceasefire until the end of 2020 so countries can fight the coronavirus pandemic.
I appeal for a stepped-up international effort led by the Security Council to achieve a global ceasefire by the end of this year. We have 100 days, as I said, the clock is ticking. The world needs a global ceasefire to stop all hot conflicts.
China's President Xi Jinping, responding to Mr. Guterres' call, said Beijing has no intention to fight a cold war or a hot one with any country as tensions grow between China and the United States. In his address to the Assembly, President Xi said China would continue to narrow differences and resolve disputes with others through dialogue and negotiation. Long-simmering tensions between the United States and China has hit boiling point over the pandemic, spotlighting Beijing's bid for greater multilateral influence in a challenge to Washington's traditional leadership. U.S. President Donald Trump told the UN Assembly it must hold China accountable for their actions related to the coronavirus pandemic.
The Chinese government and the World Health Organization, which is virtually controlled by China, falsely declared that there was no evidence of human-to-human transmission. Later, they falsely said people without symptoms would not spread the disease. The United Nations must hold China accountable for their actions.
Mr. Trump, a frequent critic of the UN, also said that if the UN is to be effective, it must focus on the real problems of the world, like terrorism, the oppression of women, forced labor, drug trafficking, human and sex trafficking, religious persecution, and the ethnic cleansing of religious minorities. African leaders at the summit, whose addresses were also pre-recorded, called for greater efforts to help the continent thrive. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari called on the international community to do more to eradicate poverty, fight multinational crime, and promote inclusion of African countries in world affairs.
As we urge and strive for inclusion within our societies, we must also ensure inclusion prevails in our collective action as members of the international community. Nigeria supports the expansion of the United Nations Security Council to reflect the diversity and dynamics of the 21st century. Africa deserves permanent seats in the United Nations Security Council.
And finally, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Saturday pledged a 30% increase in funding for the World Health Organization while urging for reforms. He also presented a plan to improve the international response to future pandemics. With leaders raising various issues and solutions as global diplomacy expands, the UN has become a talking hub, living thoughts whether the world body really has all the answers.
And now to our feature. The new British Deputy High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Ben Llewellyn-Jones, has assumed his duties in the country. He's an experienced diplomat who has worked in different parts of the world, including Nigeria, where he served as political counselor at the High Commission from July 2014 to July 2017. His previous assignment was Deputy High Commissioner to South Africa from August 2017 to August 2020. In my exclusive interview with him, he discusses his impressions on Nigeria, the political climate, and other issues. Deputy High Commissioner Ben Llewellyn-Jones, thank you for speaking with us on Diplomatic Channel.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be back in Nigeria. It's fantastic.
This is your second time in Nigeria. You were here before in a position of political counselor at the High Commission in Abuja. You're back as Deputy High Commissioner. What was your impression of Nigeria back then, between 2014 and 2017, and now?
Well, that's right. I worked in Abuja for 3 years from 2014 to 2017, and I really, really enjoyed it. I managed to travel very widely in Nigeria, all the way, 26 states, I think, in the end I managed to get to, which was great. And I was struck then and struck now by the vitality of Nigeria, the energy of Nigerians, the passion, the commitment, the sense of humour, all the things that people say about Nigeria which are positive, I definitely relate to. And I think sometimes people look past those things, but I really, really was energised by them, which is why I wanted to return and to come to Lagos as well, which I recognise to be a different place than Abuja, but full of that energy, that vitality and that life.
What are your key priorities as the new Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos, and how do you intend to foster Nigeria-UK relations?
So my role is to support all of our priorities in Nigeria, but I'd say specifically economic development, trade and investment, and that's here in Lagos and the southwest, but really across Nigeria. So trying to support British businesses that are here already, trying to encourage, importantly, more British businesses, more British investment to come to Nigeria, and then really to try and help encourage the conditions that would allow that business reform, economic reform and so on. But I'm also interested in a whole range of other issues. Climate change is very important, very, very keen as well to try and support young people in Nigeria, either those who want to be involved in politics, but also young women with some of the challenges that they face. I'm a father as well as a diplomat. So for me, there's a whole range of issues which will be interesting to get involved with and where I see a role for the UK and for the Deputy High Commission. You
mentioned young women, so would you call yourself a feminist?
I think so, yes. I mean, I'm a father, and I'm also conscious, to be honest, from my time here from 2014 to 2017, that there are some particular pressures on young women in Nigeria which are very difficult, very challenging. And so from my perspective, really what we can do to help young women break through the glass ceiling, be empowered, be confident, be protected, but also I think have the space to achieve is very, very important. So absolutely committed to that and doing what I can in the right way to support that.
It's very obvious the UK is interested in Nigeria's democratic process. I mean, the UK announced just a few weeks ago possible sanctions, visa ban, travel restrictions, and possible assets freezing of people who disrupt elections or democratic processes. You have the Nigerian government also responding to that, saying that this is an interference on its sovereignty on a domestic issue. This is a fine line, Nigeria wanting UK help in strengthening institutions and so on, and then Britain walking that fine line of interference.
I mean, our approach is to support Nigerian democracy. And when I was here in 2014 to 2017, I was here during the 2015 elections. I observed many different elections across Nigeria during that time. And our role, our approach, our ambition is to allow Nigerians to elect the leaders they want to see, and to support the institutions in Nigeria that police those elections, the courts, the police, the Electoral Commission. And we provide significant support to the Electoral Commission and significant support as well to organisations, civil society organisations that are there to try and encourage a free and fair and credible process.
Our conversation with Mr. Llewellyn Jones continues in a moment. Please join us again. Incidentally, you're here, and you must have witnessed the Edo State's governorship election. What does the UK make of, the recent election?
Well, we had a team that went to Edo to support observation of the elections, and absolutely we saw very little violence. I don't think there was violence. We saw a very competent performance, very confident performance from INEC. And we saw also, most importantly, I think the candidates themselves, if you like, reach across the divide to say there should not be violence, we should accept the results. So that was very reassuring, and I think a really strong and positive outcome from those elections in terms of the process. Obviously, who wins the election isn't really our concern. What we want to see is a credible process, a process that's credible and peaceful and allows for the will of the people to be shown.
Although Britain has formally exited the European Union, there's still a lot of negotiations going on concerning trade, concerning the Northern Ireland border. When that is finally through, begins the burden, facing the burden of, properly standing alone apart from the European Union. Will post-Brexit Nigeria-UK relations be affected by this?
I think we'll be more involved. We are more involved, and I mean we have left the European Union. It's what you describe is some of the process of agreeing the future relationship with the European Union around trade and so on. But we left the European Union. What we've done though is to stay a very, very core part of Europe, and we have very strong partnerships with our European nations. But also we're a global trading nation. We always have been, and I think the strength and depth of the relationship with Nigeria is testament to that. And we, I think, have seen, if you like, as we leave the European Union, as we left the European Union, a refocusing on those relationships outside of Europe. But for me, I think our outward-looking vision is something that we should celebrate, and we'll see more and more of that, I think.
Commonwealth countries have complained a number of times about, the kind of trade that exists between them. They want to see, more participation from other Commonwealth countries. Will that improve post-Brexit?
Well, I think we're looking at how we can encourage greater trade, and I think all options are available to us in that sense. And I see definitely part of my role as to help Nigerian businesses that are interested in trading with the UK, Nigerian businesses that are interested in investing in the UK, overcome barriers that they currently perceive or that discourage them from looking at the UK. So what we can do to do that is very important, and I think for me, it's at least half the role is to make sure that trade flows two ways, not just into Nigeria, but from Nigeria to the UK. And we're doing a lot to try and encourage economic diversification that will allow businesses to be able to export and be able to, if you like, correct that balance in the way that you describe. I mean, it's a process, it takes time, but it's in our interests and it's very much part of our agenda. And it really will help with the economic development of Nigeria.
Britain is at a tipping point, according to Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and that's because the number of cases, infection rate of COVID-19 has gone up to above 400,000 in the country. You have more than 41,000 deaths. A lot of focus now on, trying to keep the numbers down. New regulations have been announced. And I know that the focus really is on, getting things back to normal in the UK. But how does it balance that with also trying to encourage other countries to do what they can to also keep infection rates down?
I think COVID-19 has challenged many countries, and I think the experience of the UK is not unique, to be honest. We look across the world at the cases that are there and where they're rising. I think what the Prime Minister's done and what the government's doing is to try and address the current rise in cases. It's still not as significant a rise as we saw in the earlier height of the pandemic, but nonetheless taking action now is a way of ensuring that we don't see those kind of numbers again. We're entering the winter in the UK, when traditionally we see more flu and colds anyway, and we're also, I think, very importantly, trying to keep the economy running and to keep children in school. And so it's a balance. It's a very careful balance. I was at lunch yesterday with the Commissioner for Health in Lagos State, and we talked about the balance in Lagos that he's trying to, with the Governor, to meet, and the Governor I spoke with yesterday as well. And it's very, very difficult, I think. But I think in the UK we're striking that balance, we're finding a way, and we're helping people who are much better aware of the need to social distance, to wash their hands, to seek advice, to seek treatment, to self-isolate when they feel ill. So I'm hopeful and positive, I'm confident really, to be honest, that we're getting to grips with what is a very challenging pandemic. But no question it's challenging. It's challenging for us all.
The Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has been buying up vaccines from across the world. And I know that, the British citizens come first, but will the UK also be helping other countries such as Nigeria to acquire vaccines for the coronavirus?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a very, very strong and significant pledge that we've made to make a vaccine available equitably and fairly across the world. Vaccines, perhaps, because it may not be one vaccine, we don't know yet. But absolutely, very much involved in the global pan-national effort to try and achieve that. And it's essential. We definitely see COVID-19 as an example of where working with other countries across the world is important and essential. We can't defeat COVID-19 by ourselves. It doesn't respect borders. The impact on our collective economies is significant. So yes, we are absolutely committed to making sure vaccines are available equitably across the world for those who need them.
And now businesses are reopening. Life is returning to normal, and your offices have opened, especially the visa application centers. Could that possibly be the reason why there's a backlog, the slowing of the processing of visa applications in the country? A lot of people have complained they can't get their visas in time to either resume, schools and meet up with business appointments and so on.
No, and we reopened our visa application centres in Ikeja, in Victoria Island and in Abuja at the end of July. And we're processing applications for all kinds of visa to go to the UK. I saw those complaints too, and obviously for us and for many it was a very difficult period during COVID-19, how to deal with applications, how to deal with social distancing. But we have contacted all of those whose 30-day vignettes had expired to try to work with them on solutions to extend those vignettes if they need to, if they still want to travel. We're also now processing all visa applications within our 15-day limit. That's what service level agreement, that's what we had. And we're also now offering priority visas, which are within 5 to 7 days. We don't yet offer the super priority visa, that's a very, very quick turnaround time, but the reason we're not doing that is we're not yet confident we could do that within the timescale. We're not going to offer a service that we can't meet a commitment to, whereas the other services we have, which are the vast majority of our services, we can meet our commitment to. And the UK borders are open. We welcome Nigerians coming to the UK who apply for a visa, use the process properly, and come to the UK to travel, to work, to study. And so many Nigerians are doing that.
And you say that Britain is open, to receiving visitors from Nigeria. Will that include people who have all classes of visas?
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. And I think it's really important to stress that. We were aware that during the height of the pandemic, it was very difficult for us to accept applications. We stopped, we slowed down for a while, but we have certainly recovered from that. And like many organisations, we're now processing those visas to the time limits that we said we would, and in the way that we said we should. And we're very, very happy to be able to do that. Nigeria
turned 60, and we're partners in progress. What's the message from the UK to Nigeria?
Well, we celebrate with you, and I think that's really important. We're very conscious of our historical relationship, but really 60 years is fantastic, and really what we're looking for is a prosperous, strong, creative and burgeoning relationship between us over time. And I think, but principally we celebrate with you. We celebrate with and for Nigerians, and perhaps this year with COVID-19 it'll be a slightly more challenging way to celebrate collectively, but to the extent we can, we will. And the sheer numbers of British Nigerians, Nigerian Brits, I don't even know how you describe that. I was talking to someone about the sheer number of British Nigerians who play rugby for England, for example, and those links are just so strong and so ingrained and so intertwined, shows really how the next 60 years should again celebrate and fulfill those kind of links, and we're very keen that they do.
Finally, for one who's been in Nigeria before and who's returned, what are your taste buds like?
I'm learning. So when I was here before, my taste buds were pretty good, and I do like a good jollof rice. I do, but pepper soup is a little bit harder for me. And since we've come back, my wife and I and the children, we've been trying to stretch our spice appetite, and we're learning. But it's taking time. But really, yeah, we will enjoy Nigerian food, enjoy the taste, enjoy the difference, and we'll get more and more familiar with it. But it's going to be fun.
Deputy High Commissioner Ben Llewellyn Jones, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you, and we Hope you have a wonderful stay in Nigeria.
Thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate it.
And that's the program today. Thanks for joining us. See you again next time. Bye for now.